Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Expats Exposed podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, I have a podcast called Expats Exposed with more than 30 episodes where I share stories. Me and some friends share stories about living in different countries, traveling. So if you want to listen to more of these episodes, you can check on major streaming platforms and find the Expats Exposed podcast. In the episode today, we're talking about midlife crisis. So I'm 43. I think I've been through my midlife crisis. It's still happening. And I know this term is a bit tricky sometimes. Some people don't believe in midlife crisis. I know it was coined by a psychoanalyst, I think in 1965, a Canadian psychoanalyst. But I know that some people don't believe in it. Some people go through it even earlier in their mid-30s. Some people go through it in their late 40s. But I decided to ask my friends who live abroad how was their midlife crisis and how was it, especially because they're living abroad. We know it's different when you are not in your home country. So I decided to ask them this question. And just so you know, what I decided to do in this episode and in a few other episodes, I asked some friends who live in different countries, who have moved to different countries, to record the answer to this question. How did your midlife crisis show up? And how was it different living in a different country? So they sent me their short answers. We're going to listen to them together. And I'm going to react to the answers with you because I haven't heard any of them. All right? So just a bit about me before we start. I am 43 years old. I was born in Brazil, moved to China in 2015, lived there for 5 years. I am an English teacher. I've been an English teacher for around 23, 24 years. I worked as an English teacher in China for 5 years. I started at language institutes and then I worked at international schools. So during the pandemic, I came back to Brazil. I stayed in Brazil till the lockdown was over and we could travel again. I decided to come to Colombia to study Spanish for 3 months on a tourist visa. That was at the end of 2021, October. And I fell in love with the country. I really like living here in Bogota. It's the capital city. It's the biggest city with a population of around 9 million people. And I just fell in love with it. So I decided to extend my tourist visa. And then I had to get another visa. I got the Mercosur visa, which is especially for countries which are part of the Mercosur, which is kind of like the European Union of South America in a way. So I got this visa, I got a job here. I was a digital nomad when I came. I was working remotely, but then I got a job here and then another job. And then it's been over 4 years now that I'm here. So as I said, I'm 43. I think my midlife crisis hit when I was around 38, 39, 40, which is in a way kind of when I decided to come here to Colombia. When I was in China, I was in my mid 30s. I'd say no, I didn't feel that there, but definitely it hit hard here when I got to Colombia. And with it, because I'm not in my country, and I had to start all over again from scratch in a country that I could speak the language, different from China. I could speak Spanish. I was not fluent perfectly speaking Spanish when I got here, but of course that was my main aim when I first arrived here. And I quickly improved my Spanish. I had lessons, online lessons before I came to Colombia. And then here I quickly improved my Spanish, using it every day, meeting locals and all of that. And I think, yes, it hit while I was here. It was different because I didn't have a support system here, which is harder. I sometimes had friends who were temporary, and that was a bit of a problem because when you move to a country solo, in a way, these friendships that come and go, they're fine when you're back home because you have people you can count on no matter what. Dating is also a bit difficult, especially now that you're not in your early 20s anymore and everything is fun, excitement. So I wanna first listen to some of my friends who send the audios, and then I'll comment on that. So let's start listening to the answers sent by my friends who live in different countries. We'll start with Leo. Leo is from Brazil, but he's been living in Canada, in Toronto, for I think about 20 years. He's also an English teacher. He has 2 kids and he lives there in Toronto. Let's listen to Leo.
My midlife crisis showed up, I would say, a little bit later in life. I don't think moving abroad fixed it because, as I said, it happened after I moved abroad. And I think it showed up in the way my children evolved. I think after a little while, when I realized that my children had grown up and had become teenagers, I realized how I became less and less important, or less and less, needed in their lives. And I feel that, having that lack of, not lack, but like knowing that my children didn't really need me as much, created a bit of a crisis in me, because a lot of my identity had been attached or had been tied up to the idea of being a father. But having said that, I also have to say that it took me some time to rediscover myself, and I feel like now I have a much better relationship with my children, and I have a new identity as a result of that.
Yeah, as I said, Leo has 2 kids. I think his daughter just finished high school in 2025. So as he said on the audio, like he's going through these changes. It's very interesting to see the Leo mentioned identity as a father, and then now when the kids don't need him that much anymore and they're more independent, they're going to university, he's having to reassess or rediscover his new identity, which of course it's always been there with him, but now it's a different moment in his life. As he said, living abroad didn't change that much, but it's very interesting to see how we sometimes in life, which is something I cannot relate to that much because I'm not a father, but which is very interesting in life, how you kind of, you got to shape your life for some time because your kids are dependent on you, but then you have to reassess that, and going out, having friends, all of that stuff that we do throughout our lives, but now different because now it's not that much about the kids. Of course, kids are always going to be there, but it's not that much about their kids, about his kids, but it's more to do with himself and rediscovering that. So that's very interesting. Now we're going to listen to the audio from Cecilia. She also has 2 kids. She is from Brazil. She's also an English teacher. Now she doesn't work as an English teacher, but she works with in the ELT, English language teaching, English as a foreign language market. She currently lives in Cambridge in the UK.
Okay, let's go to the first question about my midlife crisis. I think moving to the UK both fixed it and then fueled it a bit because I was not happy in Brazil. I was very stressed professionally. I was at a peak in terms of role and job, but I was very stressed and burned out, and it was not a good time. So at that point, moving to the UK became fixed it because it gave me the chance to start fresh and overcome all of that I was feeling. But at the same time, after moving, I had to spend some time because I came on a fiancé visa and you're not allowed to work. So after moving, not having a job, coming from a place where I had a good job, a good salary, was well established, and then suddenly no income, and especially doing nothing during the day because I couldn't work. And I've been working since I was 16, 17 in my life. So that was the fuel bit. And it made my midlife crisis a bit worse, and just looking and, oh my God, what have I done? Starting from scratch. at nearly 50 now. What am I going to do? Did I make a mistake? So, yeah, but it was a good decision. Good decision. Happy now.
So Ceci mentioned that she moved to the UK. She got there on fiancé visa, couldn't work at first, and then she went and looked for a job, and it all started there. A few very interesting points she mentioned. She said she was a bit. She got to the peak of her career in Brazil. She was a coordinator of a huge language institute there, and she, one of the reasons why she moved abroad was to start fresh, start somewhere new, and she's always, I know that Ceci always wanted to have this experience as well of living abroad and everything. But it's also hard as soon as she got there, going through her midlife crisis and then realizing that, like, wow, what have I done? I actually have to start again. And this is when you move to a country and you at first don't have a job, and then you're gonna go there and you have those 3, 6, 8 months without a job. You can have issues of like, yeah, what am I doing? Have I done the right thing? These are normal questions. But I also think that she had planned in advance for that, with savings, and she has her partner. So later, and I know because I visited her a year ago, that she's got a really good role, really nice job. She's, as she said, in the end, she's very happy there. But this starting again, Leo also mentioned that, Ceci mentioned it. It's like for Ceci was starting again in her career, but for Leo it was starting again, rediscovering his identity because his kids are not so dependent on him anymore. So I see this relationship, this connection between both of them. Now we're going to listen to Bernardo. Bernardo is from Brazil. We met. We went to school together, to the American School of Recife in Brazil. That's where I met him. So I've known him for over 30 years. And Bernardo lives in Seattle in the US.
So my midlife crisis was somewhat sprung on me through the form of divorce. It was a very long-term marriage and relationship, over a decade. And there is something to be said about being an expat and not having immediate family around you, leading up to and after something like a major life event like that. But it also, once you go through it, you find this renewed strength and sense of freedom that you might not have thought that you had before. So it makes you grow because you have less support in a certain way. And so from that aspect, I would say that being an expat, just forces you to find the right tools and the right support system to go through challenging times in life and to actually come through the other side even stronger and happier and able to achieve your goals.
So Bernardo mentioned getting divorced as being a big part of his midlife crisis. Even though he has lived in the US for over 20 years, it is hard when you get there, single, you go to university. It's a completely different time when you are in your early 20s, and you start fresh in a new country. But then when you are in your 40s and you get divorced, for example, as he said, it's starting again, finding himself again. But then at the same time, the old life he had, a lot of it, has to be put aside, and then start again making friends, having new relationships, meeting new people. and also being on his own, which as he said, it was a relationship of more than a decade. It's like learning to be on your own again, and it hits a bit hard since you're not in your home country. So in the case of Ceci that we listened before, she went to the UK, fiance visa, got married. Bernardo's case, it's kind of different. It's like, oops, now I'm alone again, and I have to start again. But now I'm last time I was single was like, I don't know, 15 years ago. So it's a bit harder. And now we're going to listen to Tati. She's a good friend of mine, also an English teacher from Brazil, who has lived in a lot of different countries, in Argentina, the UK, China, Costa Rica, and she's now a full-time English teacher at an international school in Baghdad, Iraq. Let's listen to Tati.
Well, I'm not quite sure. I've been actually through a midlife crisis. When does that start taking place? I mean, perhaps it should have started a while ago. I'm 47 now, so I guess I'm way beyond my middle age moment, these watershed moments that you actually have to have a crisis and question your priorities and your objectives in life and the directions you were, heading or taking to whatever path you might think you will find in the future. I have no idea. Like, I don't think that living abroad has affected that at all. I've never really felt like in a crisis due to aging. So yeah, I guess no, living abroad has not affected or fueled or sparkled or seized my midlife crisis because that's non-existent.
So it's very interesting to listen to Tati. Yeah, for Tati, there's no midlife crisis. As she said, she's 47, and no, I haven't felt it. Lived abroad, many different countries, and no, it's not there. And that's part of the thing that I mentioned at the beginning of this video, of this episode, that it is a term which was coined in 1965. But for some people like Tati, no, it hasn't affected her. It hasn't even happened. And living abroad hasn't changed anything. So I think it's very interesting from the four people who sent their audios, my four friends, and myself, my own experience. It's that I feel that it's about rediscovering who you are. It's about asking yourself about your priorities. It's about reevaluating things and what you want, what you don't want, where you're heading to. I think that in my personal case, I think it caught me that as soon as I turned 40, 41, actually, I started thinking about that. It's like not that I think I've always lived my life with a purpose. I'm a purpose-driven person. I try to follow my passions. One of my biggest passions is traveling, teaching English, making here content, and I've always tried to follow these passions. I've always tried to reach my goals professionally, but also my hobbies. As this is in a way a hobby, and also this year, actually 2025, I traveled to my 31st country. I visited my 31st country, which was Costa Rica. So it's a passion that hopefully till the day I die, I'll still be passionate about traveling. Hopefully I'll still be in a way working with English teaching. Even if I'm retired, I'll be, I don't know, making videos about English language teaching or somehow doing something related to it, because I think it's about reevaluating where you are. And then in my case I told myself I need to still continue doing the things that I love. I need to stop and think, is this actually necessary what I'm doing? Is this person that I'm gonna meet really meaningful for me? Is this job actually positive for me? I know that no job is 100% perfect, but is this job actually giving me what I really want? And I think for me it was about this, about rethinking a lot of things. And the fact that I was abroad made me question as well, what am I doing here in Colombia? Why am I here? I came here to learn Spanish. Why have I decided to settle down here? Should I stay here, or should I try and move somewhere, perhaps for 1, 2, 3 years again, and work there? And because one of the things of the midlife crisis was that I started asking myself, I'm still healthy, I'm still eager to new experiences and everything, but in 10 years, when I'm 53, will I want to move to a new country and start from scratch again? This really hit me hard, because this is the third country, fourth, that I live in. But will it always be like this? I also ask myself this question. Will I ever settle down somewhere? Will I ever want to stay in a place and have that as my base, and grow my, support system, and also be able to call the place home? So these were questions that I've been asking myself, and that I don't know the answers to all of them, but these are questions that I think are very important, especially when you are someone who is not in your hometown, you are somewhere else. So I don't know the answers to these questions. My midlife crisis hit when I was here in Colombia. Thankfully, I pay for a therapist, so there's a psychologist back in Brazil. I have sessions with him online. And when I started doubting myself about my decisions, my goals, luckily I had him, and I could share my stuff, because for me it was a bit difficult. It's still being a bit difficult, but I think that with the right support, in my case, therapy, building a support system where you are, my friends here, keeping in touch with the friends who are in different countries, and doing what I love. I think that all of that all of these things were very important. I think all of these things were very important to keep me going and keep me active, and realizing that this is still what I want. This is the life that I want. This is the place that I want to be. And if tomorrow or in a few months I move to another country, it will still be not because I did it in a rush or because I was running away from something, but it will be just because it was the right decision at that time, in 6 months, in a year, or some other time in the future. I hope you like this episode of the podcast. Once again, if you want to listen to more episodes like this, just search for Expats Exposed in podcast streaming platforms, and you'll find more episodes there. I'll see you next time.